How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on BTWProductions.com with your favorite show hosts, Ari Stares.
Fern.
And Vaul, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry and other events that have happened this week, and anything else that crosses our mind. And I just got carted.
You shouldn't Monster Hunter during the show because your attention is really just not there.
It's really hard. It's really hard. And he just one-shot me, so it wouldn't have mattered if my attention was there or not. I wouldn't.
Oh dear.
First of all, if you would like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or by following us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or by joining us in our Discord chat, which you can easily access by going to vtwproductions.com and clicking on the No Excuses logo on any of our recent show posts. At Discord, you can communicate with us at any time, and you can post channels, whatever you like, and so on and so forth.
Yes. Alright. So, on the stream this week, I'm playing a bit of Slime Rancher. They just put out a big update, and it's on sale at the moment. So, if you want kind of a chill game where you feed slime and sell their poo for money.
You're not really selling it. This is the problem.
It's a very, very weird premise. But it's cute, it's adorable, and it involves slime poo selling. Okay, they don't actually look like poos, they look like these little crystals here, but yeah, it's still slime poo. So yeah. What have I done this week, I suppose? We'll just jump straight into it. Not much. I got myself a Battle for Azeroth beta key, or alpha key as it is. I didn't ask for it, but I got one.
Mm-hmm.
Is it legit an alpha, or is it just a beta that's kind of restricted?
It's an alpha because...
Alpha.
Yeah. The game isn't complete, so what used to be a beta test is now the alpha test, I guess.
Because alpha testing used to be a thing that was done internally. There would be no point in showing it to the public.
Yeah.
So
Alpha used to mean broken RNS. That's what we call, like, a marketing alpha now. Is effectively what would be closed beta before.
Yeah. So I logged into the game and kind of poked around a little bit at the UI and things just to see what was there. And yeah, there's things like maps that are incomplete and there's placeholder models around the place and, things like that. Back in, Vanilla, Burning Crusade, Wrath, this was what they used to call the beta. Beta now is purely marketing. It's nothing else but marketing.
Yeah, it's basically the pre-release. It's basically the pre-release, but you don't get to keep your character.
Exactly right. So,
considering most of the feedback that they get during a beta seems to get completely ignored, it's pretty transparent for marketing purposes.
Yeah.
Call it a pre-release preview or something, but it does not serve the purpose of typical programming and computer software alphas and betas.
No.
I think that people's expectations would be legitimately higher if they didn't call it a beta. If it's so long as it's a beta, they can just say, "Oh, it's just a beta."
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why they do it, but it's still dishonest. It's not doing what a beta does. They're not actually listening to most of your feedback, and betas exist to test the program and get it working before you're ready to ship it. They're already pretty much ready to ship the game by the time they get it out in beta. They're just doing it to market and hype up the game.
Yes. And at best, stress test the servers, and even that doesn't work.
Well, stress testing has never been successful in the history of it.
Nope, it has not.
The stress testing shows a problem. The only thing you can say is our core netcode is bad and we need to fix it.
Yep.
As somebody that studied networking, that is the solution, and it's never a thing of we can just touch it up.
Well, yes,
you
because
have to royally mess up your network architecture for something to break in stress testing, or you didn't buy enough servers. It's one of those two things.
Yep. And the problem is a lot of these stress tests they take place, 2 weeks before launch, so there's no time to fix anything anyway.
Yeah, you would have to completely recode your entire networking side of your game. The architecture would have to be rebuilt if that's the problem, and sticking in 50 new servers means manually punching them in everywhere the server has to connect to them.
Yar.
That takes a while.
That it does. So I'll probably poke at that during the week if I get time. My upcoming week is looking pretty not time friendly, to put it nicely. To put it unnicely, it's looking like utter crap. So, yeah. What else? So I watched a little bit of anime. I watched the second episode of Persona 5 before the show. Thankfully, they slow it down.
I watched the first episode last night when I had some time.
Yep.
Yeah, they're pretty brisk about it. I think that given the quantity of material that they wanted to cover in that time frame, I think that they cut it relatively well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still a brutal pace that they're trying to keep there.
Yeah. So, yeah. Thankfully, once they get all that, first 4 hours of the game expedition out of the way, then things slow down a little bit.
I'm also fairly sure that I'm fairly sure that they're not expecting anybody who hasn't finished the game to watch the damn. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so either. Mostly, I think for the appeal is for those people who haven't touched the game is just to skip out of it. In which case, you're doing it wrong. Go play Persona 5.
Yes.
Yes.
Fairly good. I'm trying to find the number of voice dialogue lines inside Persona 5 to just see how much they'd have to cover in the show. And how much they would have to cut.
I saw that number at one point, and
I forgot.
It was stupidly big. It was really,
I saw
really
that
big.
earlier this week and forgot.
Yeah.
It's a major problem for both production in the first place and localization, really. And that, a lot of these games come out and they've got, more words in them than the longest book ever written.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing. Like, that's becoming relatively frequently the case now. They're just, this project is of insane scope. To do it, you would have to be bonkers. And so you get localizations which end up cutting a lot of voice lines and reducing them to text only and that type of thing, which nobody's ever happy with. But, what are you going to do, really?
Sometimes you've just got to do it. But, yeah. So, Persona 5, it's a good anime for those who have already watched or played through the game and just kind of want a recap of the story so far. Some of the actual only fight scene that's happened so far was kind of disappointing and stupid. But, you got to see Zoro be a swag lord, I guess. So that's a thing.
I think that most of the stuff that we've seen so far, and that I've seen so far, was better executed in the game, even within the limitations of the game engine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that they did it better there.
Yes.
A lot of the things are a little bit, yeah, that's, I guess. It's just not, it doesn't feel the same, I don't think. Like, I'm not really wowed. I think that, like, it made me contemplate playing the game again, but it didn't really make me, it didn't make me relive the experience playing.
No, definitely not. What
There's
else?
going to be something like a summer arc from Persona 4 the animation, where they figured out you and gave him a ridiculously stoic, deadpan character, and do something like that in this game that's just as funny and good to get my attention.
There is actually something along those lines to look forward to, and that's the beach episode.
Well, that's a single episode. That's not cheesing an entire arc by making the protag a deadpan snarker.
Yeah, I know. But
I will remind you of the fishing scene where he dramatically puts on his glasses to catch the big fish.
Yes. Oh, that was incredible.
My favourite example of that is where they go over the cliff into the river.
Yes. The completely stoic face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's when they got it. They suddenly understood what type of anime they were making.
Yep. Unfortunately, Joker, or was he Ren Amamir or something?
He's Joker.
We're
never going to get all the continuity names right until they finally settle in a couple of years.
Well, most people at this point were calling him Akira Kuruzu after the manga. But that went out the window.
That bumps a lot of other S&T names. A lot of S&T dudes are named Akira. That's probably why they didn't stick with it.
And striking me at this point that Akira is the anime equivalent of Bob or John. So, yeah. So, it's okay, but if you haven't played Persona 5, go play the game rather than watch the anime. It's a very, very good game.
It's a long game, though, so...
Oh, yeah, it's a serious time investment.
Even if you don't muck about, it's still going to take you a good long while.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you don't muck about enough, it might even take you longer.
That's a point, actually. You'll probably miss something and have to go back for it. If you still can. All right.
It's better than most of the other games about locking out of stuff. You'll probably be fine. Just play the video game.
Just play the game. Play the damn game. Right.
Awfully pushy there.
SMT foreshadowing for later. We'll get to that in a bit.
I know, right? So, other anime I watched. The first 2 episodes of My Hero Academia, the new series, are up. The first episode is, of course, your standard recap type dealy. So nothing surprising there.
They're sort of dropping you in the middle.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't really make a lot of sense if they hadn't done that.
Mm-hmm. So the setup this time is it's summer camp and everyone is over learning how to use their quirks a bit better. Rather than, just physical and mental training, which is what they were doing before. Largely. Also bad guys.
Naturally things are not going to stay stable for very long.
Oh no, I expect things to go to hell within the next episode.
Yes, they very much go south.
Yes. So, yeah, the big bad is still hiding in the shadows. The other bad, the guy with the face palm, I can never remember his name. The guy with the disintegrating power. He's lurking around and making creepy faces.
As far as villains go, he's not very good in my opinion, because he has his motivations and he is crazy and so on, and he is villainous and he is a threat. He's all of those things, but he's not really a person. No.
He's also a very obvious stooge.
Well, he's not actually. That's the thing.
Mm.
Like the story seems to imply, and it's been a long time since I've read it, so I'm not 100% about that. But the story seems to imply that he is supposed to be, because there are two quirks in the class of One for All and All for One.
Yes.
And he's supposed to be the protege of the other one.
Yeah, One for All.
He doesn't.
No, All for One. Sorry.
He doesn't get treated like a stew by the story. So I don't know. He seems like they keep trying to make him the character important and villainous, but he ends up being more or less just a force of nature that drives the plot along. Because he's not. Because they keep trying to be too mysterious about it.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
You reach a certain amount of no information provided, and basically you end up, in a position where he's just sort of a mythological figure who, makes storms happen or something.
He's just needlessly creepy all the time. That's all.
Yeah, like they don't follow up. I think that's the biggest problem, is that they don't really follow up. He will he has a scene where he will do something villainous, but then you'll get distracted by someone else for a while. Like he first really appears as a villain in the attack on their training thing, training facility, but after that, he basically disappears from the plot in favor of the hero killer. Yeah,
he shows up right at the end of Arc 3.
Well, he shows up in bits and pieces throughout the hero killer arc, but the hero killer is clearly the focus.
Yes.
And then he gets mad that he's not the focus, and then he shows up as a result of that, and then he disappears again.
Yes.
They're not very good. And in the when I last looked at the manga, they were in another big long arc focused on another villain with another agenda, completely separate, who had borrowed some of that guy's thugs in a sort of a deal that they had made. So he as in the primary villain was nowhere to be seen, and the other guy becomes a villain much, much more important within the span of a few chapters, because he does something consistently villainous on screen. And he has an obviously threatening power, and he's obviously extremely good at using it. And so he ends up totally stealing the original villain's thunder. The whole thing is very, very sloppy as far as managing that particular character is concerned. I don't know where the author's planning to go with it.
Yeah. So, that said, though, the series as a whole so far has been still very, very good, and it's just a lot of fun.
I mean, as far as that goes, I'm saying that he's badly managed as a villain, but the fact is there are lots and lots of very much worse villains.
Oh my yes.
I mean, the villain in Sword Art Online, for instance.
Well,
yeah, why are you doing what you're doing? That's what Sword Art Online boils down to.
It just sounded like a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
At least they're trying to set up the next tier of power level villain. before they just plop him in.
Yeah.
So, if this was like in the 90s, this would probably be okay.
Yeah,
And it wouldn't be nearly as big a deal.
Our expectations are a bit higher these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Hiroaka does give me the feeling of a show written in the 90s. It's part of the reason I like it.
Well, it's supposed to be a revival of the classic hero ideal, updated. Like it's not meant to break new ground. It's not meant to be one of those modern weird stories like science adventure stories and stuff like that. It's not meant to be one of those. It's meant to be. Well, this is a concept. This concept of heroism is one of genuine worth, and so it deserves a bit of time in the sun. It's basically where we're going.
Yeah.
We don't mention science adventure after robotics notes.
Well, we have to mention it because there's a new science adventure anime this season, and I'm not going to watch it, so you need.
This doesn't sound good. It sounds like there's something we should probably just avoid at all costs.
Well.
Unless it's one of the
Ari's job. It's Steins Gate Zero.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's Ari's job.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. That's actually a good one. I'm planning to watch that one anyway. Yeah, that might as well be.
The thing is that science adventure is just sort of like it's a big pile of mud with the odd gem in it. So we need somebody to dig through the mud for us.
It's more like a pile of gems that had a ton of mud fall on top of it, where it was really good when it started, and it ain't been really good lately.
Yeah.
Unless it's a spin-off of something that was in the initial 3 releases, is generally pretty bad.
Can we have
I'm willing to ignore that. I'm willing to ignore that sort of level of fumbling about in Fate Stay Night because it's actually cool. But science adventure doesn't have the same sort of grab factor for me.
Yeah. The other anime I watched was an alleged shonen, which is the new series of Shokugeki, or Food Wars.
I haven't got around to it yet.
Thankfully,
but I haven't got around.
Yeah, thankfully it picks up exactly where it left off, which I was worried it would do something stupid like leave us in the middle of an arc to go off and do some filler or something.
I don't really remember where it left off. I know that there was sort of a big deal that ended in a loss for the main character, but then the stakes were immediately abrogated, which in a way sort of bothered me. And in fact, it bothered me before it happened, because basically there was no... The writing I thought was very bad in that particular challenge, because, okay, so he challenges like the best guy in the school.
Yep.
And basically for an all or nothing challenge. There's no way the story can let him beat him, because then the story would be over.
Yes.
So he has to lose, but he can't lose because then the story would also be over. So immediately, as soon as the challenge is made, you know that it's going to end in some complete bullcrap, which it did, because it was the only choice. And that sort of entirely foregone conclusion writing is categorically bad, in my opinion.
Yeah. But let's face it, for this show, you're not really there for the stellar writing. You're there for the food porn.
No, I'm not saying that you should be, but I'm saying that particular gaffe is a very bad one, and I didn't think it needed to happen. It seemed entirely avoidable, and they didn't avoid it.
Nope. Yeah. Even just having someone interrupt that challenge instead of letting it run its course would have been better than just...
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I won, but I didn't win. You can go now.
Yeah, virtually any treatment of that would be better than the one that they picked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I won, but suddenly, for reasons that I didn't bother to explain beforehand, I don't care anymore.
You have incompatible ideas or something like that.
Yeah, like it's no. Just no.
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 So, it's still fun. It's not a complete recap episode, thankfully, because it is still the middle of an arc. So something actually happens in it. And yeah, it's still fun, and I'll probably keep on watching that one. I don't know why I like it so much. It's just fun and dumb, I guess.
Yeah, I like it as well. It's just that occasionally it will faceplant into one of those problems. Like, I feel like in the classic shonen, where the outcome is the extreme injury or death of one of the people, like they know what they can and can't do right out of the gate. When it's just competition, then there's room for them to make errors like this, to make faults in writing.
Yeah. So It's still good. I think that was about.
I'm not trying to say that.
No, I'm not. I know you're not, but yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's any other anime that I watched, but I think that was it for the moment. You might have some more to add later on, Vaul. Maybe. Because unfortunately, I didn't really get
much this week. I was very tired.
Yeah, I didn't get to play a whole lot in the way of video games this week, unfortunately. Just chipping away at the Monster Hunters still. Did a couple of attempts at the Mega Man event, which is up now, where you fight 2 Odogarons. It's not as hard as it looks, thankfully. You don't fight them both at the same time. Yeah.
Well, I thought you said you've got a timer.
Yeah, there's 2 of them in there. There's a little tiny one that's about the same size as just a random trash monster around the place, and then there's a big one.
So it's a tiny one and
yeah.
Like, is it like little gold crown, big gold crown? Is that what we're talking?
That's what we're talking. So you'll actually get both Odogaron crowns out of this event. But the little ones in the arena...
Having to fight 2 Odogaron.
Yes. So, yeah, the little one's in the arena to start with, and you just fight him on his own for a while, and after a certain time... Actually, I didn't want to do that. After a certain time, the big one comes in, and it's easily possible to take out the little one before the big one turns up. Of the 2, though, I found the little one harder to fight, because he's so small, you lose him in the particle effects. You can't see what he's doing half the time.
I see. What's the reward?
The reward is a Mega Man costume for your Palico, as well as a weapon. I believe you need 6 tickets all up. I'll have to double check that, though. Which means doing the event up to 6 times. Yep, and should you equip your Palico in the Mega Man armor, the battle music will change out in the field depending on what weapon you're equipped. So, yeah, different soundtrack for each weapon. What else? That's really been about it for my week this week. I suppose I can mention this, just to kill a little bit more time. I did have a poke at Mad Max, seeing as though it's free this week. And it seems like standard Warner Brothers game affair. Like, here's a framework, here's a sandbox, off you go. Also, everyone's got atrocious accents.
No idea what you mean by Warner Brothers game. I haven't played one in ages.
Well,
isn't Mad Max traditionally like in Australia?
Yeah, it's kind of east of Sydney usually, or at least this one is. In what was formerly the Pacific Ocean.
East of Sydney?
Used to be, not anymore. Not in the Mad Max universe.
I see.
So that's how you end up with this massive, great desert. There's no more ocean there.
I'm not very familiar with Mad Max at all.
Yeah.
I just know that it's Australian.
Yeah. Without going too deep in the lore, it's just the oceans dried up because reasons, and everything kind of went to hell. So now we have flamethrower guitars. It sounds logical to me.
It seems like a win, really.
Totally does. So the game opens with Max fighting the big bad Scrotus, because Mad Max and names they like doing things like that. Scrotus. Yes.
Does he think that that's badass, or?
I don't know, but he gets a chainsaw through his face, so presumably he doesn't have any more opinion on it. But again, given this is Mad Max, he'll probably be fine. Because, that's totally sense make. So yeah, you have to basically build up your car and travel around the wasteland killing bandits and things, and building up your car a bit more, and building up various bases with people with silly accents. And that's it. You do that on loop until eventually story happens.
Isn't that what bogans in Australia generally do?
Yeah, pretty much. There's a lot more beer and a lot less maggot eating.
Right.
Yes. So it's fun, but
I was like, is this a documentary or?
Unfortunately not. because that would be kind of
Don't drink
badass.
and drive, kids.
Do not
Don't
drink
do
and
it.
drive. Yeah, it's the same kind of thing I found in the Lord of the Rings War of Mordor, or what was it called? Shadow of Mordor. They set up the framework and just say go, and everything else is there just for you to find. And a lot of that can mean doing menial tasks for an hour or two. Which is fine, I suppose, because the story is still there if you really want it, but if you just want to faff about in a sandbox blowing cars up, you can as well, so there you go. That was my week, I guess. I'm just going to sit here and keep on slamming ranches. Wait, hang on.
All right. Okay then.
That sounds horrible.
Your week. False week, go.
Uh-oh, have we lost him?
I don't know.
I think we have. Oh dear, this isn't good.
I'm actually having to multitask while we do the show, so I was not prepared for him to have to pop off for a bit.
Oh dear.
So yeah,
Your week then, sir.
That seems like a bad idea.
Oh dear.
I have mine pretty structured and planned out.
And
Might want to take an early break till he gets back, or just no time has passed. It will be okay when we get back.
oh dear. All right, let's throw to some music while we figure out what happened to Vaul.
To the listener, no time will have passed. There was 2 minutes, but for you, there is none. We're back.
Yes. So something went bang.
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with my network. It's been trouble.
It's fine.
But,
It wouldn't be no excuses without some piece of technology deciding it was going to rebel on us.
Yeah, that really does seem to be the case.
Yeah, it was going
Seem to
too
have
well.
poor luck with the technology.
It hates us.
Yeah. Okay, so generally speaking, I'm starting to be on the mend. I don't have any more time though because work is still relatively chaotic, largely because of people who are organising.
Is this a rant coming in?
No, I'm not going to rant because I feel like I've ranted to basically anybody who would listen and most people who wouldn't, because I think that this is just me undergoing the shell shock of having to be an adult and work.
Yeah.
The reality is that, you know, it seems like you have to go through the adult version of, man, no one understands me, which is the bosses don't understand anything, ever.
Oh, no.
And more than that, they don't care.
That never goes away.
That is a universal truth. Everyone higher than you up on the chain is stupid, and your coworkers are all incompetent.
Yes,
That's
the
how it
old...
goes.
I think my co-workers are great. It's that all of the people responsible for organising who my co-workers are don't seem to be great. That's the problem.
You'll never convince them to set foot in the lab.
Well, the thing is that sometimes they do, but they make things worse when they because they have been out of the lab so long that they're no longer good at lab work.
Oh dear, that's worse.
He's in a that's a fairly technologically progressive field. It moves pretty fast. So
Yes, it
No,
does.
it's not really because I do mostly very classical microbiology work, which is not. It doesn't really change that much. It changes a bit. Like there are big shifts in the way things are done periodic, But this is more sort of like when you're doing sort of large quantities of commercial microbiology stuff, it tends to be a case of you've got to build muscle memory for doing it quickly, and if you don't maintain it, you suddenly start to suck at your job, and there's not really any getting away from it.
Yeah.
But the thing is that because they're higher on the chain, they think that it's impossible for them to ever be bad. So,
Wrong.
At any rate, there's no real rant coming out of this, except that they keep moving my day off, and it means I can't plan anything or arrange anything ever, because my day off may not be there in a week or two, and they've decided that no, you know what, it's a different day now.
Ugh.
So I hope you like not having public holidays off, because we're going to strategically move your days off to them in order to prevent you from ever getting time and a half or an extra day off.
I remember public holidays. They're those things that happen to other people.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're in a service industry, so
Customer service is terrible.
you have a particular reason why you need to be working on that day.
Yeah.
I suppose I technically work in a service industry as well. It's just not the public.
Yeah.
Businesses which often stay open. But yeah, the short version is I don't have a huge amount of free times. And what free time I have is arranged in such a way that it's difficult for me to take advantage of it, because I don't know when it's going to happen. But at any rate, I wish though that I could, actually do things when I get home, but usually I get home so late that it's like, you know what, I don't have any energy. I'm going to eat dinner and then go to sleep because I need to be back at work in the morning.
Yep.
Like tomorrow, I need to be back at work in the morning because I don't ever get 2 days off in a row. Ugh. But so I haven't done much in the way of game. Like logging on to Monster Hunter on Sunday for the show is basically the first time that I get to play Hunter during the week. No matter how carefully I think that I've planned to allow myself some time. Likewise, I don't get to watch much anime for the same reason. Anyway, what did I do for recreation this week? Well, the Da Vinci event on FGO came to an end, and after taking an absolute shellacking at the hands of the gun, I eventually found that because I took a shellacking at the hands of the gacha, I basically couldn't do some of the missions because I didn't have enough servants with type advantage and the right sort of gameplay archetype in order to, perform well enough to get through them at my mega level.
Yeah.
Not to mention there's basically a hard cap on your ability to progress if you don't have one of an extremely good team comp or high level 7, and 3 stars, they don't go past level 70 unless you're willing to spend grails on them. Not because
generally you don't want to spend grails on those.
You're gonna grail that what's his nuts that saved France all the way to level 99. You're gonna get like however many groups that is.
People have done that. People have grailed Sasaki Kojiro to 100 because the vast majority of people grail for character loyalty and not.
They will grail their waifu, yes.
Yes, there are people who grailed Matahari all the way up to.
Why? It's hard to believe even she's someone's waifu.
She's all boobs. She's only the worst assassin in the game.
She's almost the worst servant in the game.
There are a lot of contenders for that title.
Yes, there are.
But,
which one's that? Oh, that one. I had to look up a picture to remind myself. That's right.
Yeah.
She's the XP spotter from the Friend Summon.
That's the one.
Right.
Yeah. So I took a shellacking at the hands of the gacha, got absolutely nothing useful, and therefore was unable to augment my lineup to the extent I had a reasonable chance at doing some of the mission. I managed to wrestle my way through the assassin mission and the event, but I think that I finished that one on sheer luck rather than good planning on my part, because I borrowed a support servant and I took a support servant with me in addition to a sort of, I took Medea as my DPS, and Medea has incredibly low DPS. Mainly, I took her because I didn't have anything better. And apparently that's the case for a lot of people. People who don't have Halloween Elizabeth and who don't have Nursery Rhyme basically don't have caster DPS. The thing is that everybody who's been playing longer than me has Halloween head option. But I think that it's not very good planning on their part to set up such that it's so hard to do missions unless you have particular servants.
Yeah.
Pretty much anybody who had a comp based around Waver had no trouble, which is pretty much everybody who spends money on the gacha. But yeah, there are a lot of persistent rumors that have been floating about since the game was launched in Japan that Saint Quartz, which is bought with money, has different odds on things than Saint Quartz that is free.
I could believe that. It makes a point of actually telling you that it's going to use the free Saints Quartz first.
Yeah, we know for a fact that there is a difference between the two. We just don't know the precise nature of that. So, yeah. At any rate, that event is finished. I feel like I didn't accomplish much because I washed out so badly compared to my sort of like stunning come from behind victories I managed to pull sometimes in the Kara no Kyoko one. This time it was just me getting shellacked over and over and being unable to these sort of, mono-class challenges.
Yeah.
But in practice, I actually accomplished quite a bit because I managed to get the last ascensions for Hans, Caesar, for Cuchulainn, for Medea, for Emir, and for Martha. So they all have access to their maximum natural level. I just need to round up enough XP to dump down that hole.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did make progress. It just doesn't feel like I did because I took so many defeats. But yeah. The next event is starting very, 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 very soon. Like very soon.
We're already in the pre-event stages now.
And the next one is going to be done in the style of the Kara no Kyoko.
Yes.
Big mission, mate.
So we should actually be able to accomplish something.
The free servant is Iris Field's Dresses of Heaven. It's going to be interesting seeing that one. Like, she's the number one reason why Medea Lily is totally worthless because Iris Field does the same thing. And she's but yeah, it's I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not looking forward to the humiliation of being unable to get all of the things that I want because it's much, much harder based on what I've seen. It looks harder than Kyoko one. When I say much, much harder, that's not really true. It's harder. I think it's probably still doable for me, probably doable to some extent, greater or lesser extent. But it's I don't know. I feel like they have carefully positioned the rewards more. They are gated more by skill than they were in Kara no Kyoko, where they were gated mainly by persistence and future planning. Like if you carefully plotted out what particular things you were going to do, you would be able to get them. Whereas in the case of this one, it's like, well, there are these big challenges that you need to overcome for each major reward. And this is in terms of getting extra copies of Iris Veil and her specialist. I don't know how much use I'd get out of her because she's not great as a support 7. I've made my feelings on pure healing in FGO in the past, and that I don't think it's really that useful because you can't close out a game with pure healing because damage will always outstrip it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sort of like, well, you kind of hit anyway. Event 7 never ever be. Yeah. Oh well. I just wish it wasn't so soon, but thankfully, despite being very soon, it's also quite long. It's longer than an event because apparently what happened is it had a problem with it in Japan when it launched, so they had to lengthen it to make it doable, and because they want the US experience to be as parallel to the Japanese one as possible, we've gotten the lengthening from the outset.
Neat.
So, advantage us.
Yes.
But yeah, that's probably not going to be advantage us when the raids come around because we have such a small player base by comparison. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, even though it requires me to do all sorts of strange things of playing during breaks at work and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Which requires planning. I wish I didn't do. I haven't really played much in the way of other games because I haven't had the sit down time to do so. I've continued to get repeatedly shellacked in Monster Hunter. For some reason, I just seem to take more damage than people. And I mean per hit. I don't mean that I'm standing in more. Oh, and devil.
Yeah. Still can't figure that one out.
Yeah, like I seem to get too shot by things that other people can just tank. And I'm pretty sure I've got my armor up to snuff now. So I don't really know what the deal is. But one can't have everything. I just need to get good. If I take more damage than other people, then I need to get gooder.
You need to get gooder.
But yeah, I still enjoy playing it though, even if it makes me rage a good percentage of the time.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Devil Joe has picked up Setsuyaku and engaged Legiana with it.
That sounds hilarious, actually.
It is actually hilarious to watch. Setsuyaku has been dropped now and is desperately exiting stage left.
Yeah. He can't bro out on that one. He's just got to run.
Yeah. Anyway, oh, please. Well, they've got a special turf war. Cool.
Yeah, right.
Anyway,
Devil Joe has a turf war animation for just about everyone.
He's got a lot. He's got more than average. So he doesn't have one.
He does.
I think he's got a turf war, probably got a turf war animation for pretty much everybody he can't pick up.
Well, yeah.
I just wish he wasn't here because he's making my life very difficult.
That's what he's there for.
But yeah, I got some books in the mail. I read the next. I read one and about 1.5 of the next volumes of Konosuba. And I can sort of see the development as it goes along. It's like the Kazuma we all know and love. It's sort of he develops over the course of the first 3 books into the one that he starts as in the anime. Like you can see that the writer was sort of feeling his way out on how he was going to write this basically reprehensible character over the course of time, and had sort of roughly nailed it towards the sort of the middle of the 3rd book, and that basically gives the anime a huge advantage because they can start out with the right Kazuma.
Yep. So what was he initially?
I think he was much more bland, much more generic protagonist, much less snarky, and much less overtly corrupt. Like he was still a sleazy teenager, but he was generically so. He wasn't sort of the caricature, the entertaining caricature that he became.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm quite enjoying that. It seems to lapse into manga now and again. Like there'll just be a 2-page spread of manga. Usually when somebody's having a particularly lurid fantasy about things, it'll just slip into manga style. And in fact, there's a several page color manga part in the back of the book, in the back of book 3, which is basically the. You can only send it to YouTube.
Okay.
Where are we?
So
are we online?
Until that streaming lights up and I hear noise, I'm not going to trust that we're online.
I see something. We're live? Are we live?
Is it live?
Is it working yet? Are we working again?
It's alive!
Fabulous. Things are happening.
Okay, yes. Okay, so it cut off what I said happened, but yes, we're live now.
Okay.
So now that it's connected, I'll say that again and we can get rolling. So
we're trying to basically set records
short.
for the biggest technical hitches that we've had during the show ever.
Yeah.
Total computer death is a new record, I think. Definitely.
So yes, Fern's here. He's on his tablet. His computer died. So we've had to wrangle a few things.
Complete memory failure died. Not just crashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing's dead. Like, he could pull the hard
can-
drive out and stick it in a new box, and that's about it.
I can wrestle some more life into it. This isn't the first time it's happened. It is the first time it's happened during the show.
You're going to crack it open, there's going to be like burn marks on the motherboard.
It's already open. It's an open case PC.
Is it like presently on fire?
Not yet, but give it a few minutes, I think.
Yeah, this sounds like some kind of wombo combo memory and power supply problem. This is not a good problem to have.
I'm pretty sure it's the motherboard dying at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's another likely thing it could be. This is pretty hard to diagnose without looking at it personally.
Yeah, well, sometimes it wants 6 gig of RAM, sometimes it wants 12, sometimes it wants 18.
Yes. So Fern is here, at least.
Yeah.
He can participate.
Sort of.
But he does not sound very good.
No, at least this sounds a bit better than that Bluetooth earpiece I dug out to try and use. That was horrible.
Yeah, where do you find that? The trash?
Kmart, so yes.
Close enough.
It was a cheap $10 one from Kmart. It was going to be rubbish right out of the box.
I didn't know Bluetooth things could get $10 in my state, let alone where you guys live. Ugh.
Yeah, so lesson learned. If a Bluetooth device seems too cheap, it is.
Yes.
Anyway, so currently I'm the one who is streaming, and I did a very shotgun approach to setting up the levels. I don't really know if they're right or, at all applicable. But we'll just mush on the best we can since we are basically cleaning up a big mess right now.
Everything's on fire.
We can just say it's an experiment and we're forgiven for everything, right?
Yeah,
I guess.
You guys on your end will probably only be able to see the No Excuses logo because, frankly, I'm not ready to start streaming a game right now. And, frankly, I don't trust my internet to keep running either. So we've got Fern and Ari keeping an eye on the stream from the outside so that they can tell if I suddenly lose connection. And then,
as much as I can, anyway. I'm reduced to one screen. I feel blind.
I've got it open on my other screen in the corner of it. I'll see if the light turns grey.
Right. Well, at any rate, so Fern tells me that I was talking about Konosuba when I left off. I presume that's correct because, he seemed to change his mind a couple of times. But basically I was talking about having read the third and fourth volume of the light novel and the way that the incarnation of the lead character and all-round general sleazy and unpleasant person Kazuma is basically he's basically a caricature in the anime, an entertaining one. I don't mean that in a bad way. He's an amusing caricature in the anime, but he doesn't start out that way in the light novel. In the light novel, he's a very bland character initially, and he sort of gets increasingly detailed and more like his beloved, in air quotes, counterpart from Konosuba the anime as time goes on, and the writer has more time to sort of find his feet with the characterization and so on and so forth. But it's the book itself is very, very close to the anime in most respects, other than there are a few sort of additional scenes here and there that aren't included in the anime for reasons that escape me. Like, some of them I can see, oh well, this was removed for time constraints, obviously, because it's about the introduction of a very minor character who doesn't feature very much and isn't that important. So I can see why you would cut something like that. But there are other things which characters that are clearly being introduced for a reason because they're going to figure somehow later, although it's not really clear how exactly. And they're just sort of ignored pretty much in the anime. They don't exist in the same capacity, at least. They may exist as bit characters, but I don't recall them doing anything per se. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they handle that if it gets a third season. I very much hope it does because it's a great anime. I enjoyed it very much. And if you haven't seen it, you should go see it because it's great.
You should totally go and watch Konosuba. It's great.
Yeah, it's definitely great. But it's sort of... it's very much a send up of the. It's not quite, but it's almost right to call it a deconstruction in the sort of like the opposite direction of the isekai genre, in the way like you've got deconstructions like Grimgar, which is just the world is horrible forever sort of deconstruction. There's there's nothing much more to it than that. Like you don't want to live in that world. It's too hard for normal people. But it's also like it's a deconstruction in the sense that everything is just taken to the absurd logical extent rather than the sort of the grimdark logical extent. And I think
I've heard this argument made before for it. Yeah,
it's
forget who made it.
It's quite entertaining anyway, and we've talked about it many times, but it really deserves it because I think it's one of the best that the genre has to offer, especially considering some of the really, really, really weak source ones that we've seen recently. Okay, so I'll leave that there. I don't think there are more than 4 volumes in English right now, and that covers right to the end of what has been animated, I think, the first 4 volumes. What did I watch? Other than the stuff that Fern watched, I also did watch the new Sword Art Online spin-off because, I'm a masochist like that.
Oh, good grief, why?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have Kirito in it, so it can't be that bad. I mean...
That is a major improvement, actually. I'll give it that.
Yeah, like, it's... Because it's about a new set of characters who are unrelated to the old set of characters, they just happen to play Gun Gale Online. And that appears to be all that they have in common. Like, they've seen, okay, so Gun Gale Online's arc was super popular, and we've got this, IP in the tank that we can work with, we've got this theme, we've got this setting, how about we just use it for something? That's basically what's going on here. And it's I think it works well enough. Hopefully they'll do something interesting with it, but the first episode is, like, it's pure pilot episode material. Like, it stands on its own, doesn't need any background whatsoever, doesn't really introduce the characters as characters, they just, they're there and they do stuff, but, it's, yeah, I think it serves a pretty decent role as an introductory, but it's not overwhelmingly thrilling in any sense. It's like watching a airsoft match, really. There's not really much in the way of stakes, because it's a game. And it's not played up the way it would be in, say, a shonen competition style anime or anything like that. So, I don't know, it seems kind of bland as a result, really. I mean, the settings, like, visually speaking, of Gun Gale Online are not going to win any prizes. It's like super generic wasteland. And desert and ruined cities and so on and so forth. And please tell me I'm still connected because nobody's saying anything.
Yeah, you're still connected. Okay. I'm just splitting my attention watching the red light to see if it turns off.
Right. Well,
we're just multitasking. I'm trying to do some impromptu duct tape and repairs while we're at it.
But yeah, it's there's just not really anything to commend it. But by that same token, there's really not anything bad about it. It's not weighed down by the burden of having Kirito on the cast. It does, however, have what seems to be a OP main character.
Oh, of course it does, because it's Sword Art Online.
Now, she seems to be sort of like I would guess, college age or young professional female lead, IRL, who plays as sort of like a little midget girl in the game itself. But it's... The fact is that I don't really know the rules of Gun Gale Online, having like not played the game, and I don't remember much about what they say in that regard in the anime season proper. But it seems a lot like she seems to have supernatural abilities that other players don't, but nobody accuses her of hacking. So
okay,
I don't really know what's going on here. Like, how she has special skills, like... why does she have them? Why don't other people? especially considering she is portrayed in this episode to be relatively inept strategically.
It's nothing like, Kirito's, I was a beta tester, therefore I am super overpowered powers.
No, like the concept of having a skill from outside the game that is brought into the game and it making you good is mentioned because it's applicable in this situation. Because basically the scenario presented in the pilot is one where there is a they are part of what seems to be like a regular competition, which has a series of different teams. A number of different teams participate in this competition, which seem to range up to about from 2 to 6 members in size, and the lead character is on a two-person team, and their primary opponents for this pilot are on a 6-person team, I think it is, and they basically are military or police of some kind from outside the game who are basically using the game for training purposes, which is made explicit that's who they are and that's what they're doing. And she seems to think this is grossly unfair, that somebody could bring skills that they didn't obtain within the game and use them. So I don't really know what the story is here. People aren't that surprised that she is supernaturally skilled, and people don't accuse her of hacking, so presumably she's really good within the scope of the game and has a lot of important skills that other people don't have or whatever to make her remarkable. But on top of all of that, she's just portrayed to be, barely competent as far as strategic planning goes. Like, her partner on the team is like this big burly guy who's clearly a veteran of these types of things. He does all of the thinking, like all of it. Like, she just basically, everything that she suggests is pretty much a terrible idea. So yeah, I'm not really sure what the dynamic is here. A lot of it this is just the pilot. There's plenty of time to fill in all these holes, but a lot of the basic sort of things that are established, they don't fit together because of that. Like, because she is portrayed as hapless and inept as well as super competent simultaneously. Like, how do you even square that circle?
Through the magic power of bad writing?
It could be. That could be the way they do it, through the magic power of bad writing. I suppose the easiest way for me to express this in a moment would be to point out that her entire outfit is bright pink, and so is her P90. I
did see that in the splash art. Yes.
Yes, like that. That is her normal way of doing things, and she is sort of like aware that this is strategically idiotic. But
she would be the single most visible person on that battlefield.
Yeah. Well, at any rate, her partner basically throws a poncho at her and tells her to put it on because she stands out too much. But yeah, I don't know. A lot about it just doesn't mesh together, which is sort of. I don't necessarily want a super serious story from Sword Art Online, because we've seen what happens when they try and be super serious, and mostly it makes you feel incredulous. So, I don't really want that, but I also don't want a story which is actually structurally incompetent either. So, yeah, I'm not really sure. The whole thing seems a bit dubious in a lot of ways, but we'll just have to wait and see. I might follow it.
Yeah, I'm not sold on this one. I don't even really feel like checking it.
But it's
and definitely not.
My bar for actually watching these things is relatively low. Like, it just has to not be offensively dumb. It can be regular kind of dumb, or alternatively, I'll watch something if it is the absolute worst the season has to offer. Because I often
there's something in. There is a certain dark joy in watching a train wreck. Unless, of course, it's something like, Berserk 2017.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I don't so much watch train wrecks unless they're an adaptation of something I loved. Then I watch them over and over again to try and figure out how they messed up so badly. I don't have that bug. I have the Chivo bug. That's a worse bug to get. Don't get that bug. But no.
Don't get that bug. That bug is bad.
That bug's bad. Yeah, I can't really relate to it. I don't know. It just sounds really bad. Like
Yeah,
it sounds boring. That's middle of the ground. That's the worst you can be.
It looks like it's about to take off a few times and then just never really does. It's entirely banal. Like, I'm sure that fans of the franchise will probably lap it up, but I can't really work out why anybody would come in, de novo, to become a fan of the franchise based on this material, because it's just kind of slack. And I don't
It's not very good, man.
other than My Hero Academia and the Persona 5 anime, I don't think I've had any time to watch any new material yet. Maybe I'll have some time tonight. Maybe, possibly, potentially. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'll leave it there. My throat's getting a little bit tired. It's still a little bit weak. I'm going to start having more coughing fits if I talk too much in a stretch.
All right.
So dear.
I will tag out with you then. Unfortunately, I don't have good segue. But going from stuff we were talking about earlier, most of the stuff y'all would be interested in that I could recommend to y'all is SMT related this week. So, playing Double Survivor, and I had gotten started and fixed my 3DS, and that whole story went on. So now that it has been fixed, I played through Double Survivor 2 Record Breaker. And I managed to finish both arcs this week. They're not too bad and don't take too long if you know what you're doing. So I've already played the game on the original DS with the original story and the original arc once. I only did one ending. But I went through it this time and decided to get a couple of the endings and go for the bonus bosses. So I've got a pretty good handle on the game as a whole now. And so I guess we'll talk about that. So something we don't do nearly enough when we bring these games up, and we haven't really talked about them very much, is explain what they actually are. So Double Survivor 2 is a strategy RPG on the DS and 3DS now. And you run around a map, take your turns, and your opponent takes their turns, and you run your opponents next to your opponent. You run your dudes next to your opponents, and you select the attack command, and you beat them up with a variety of skills. And yeah, there's little quirks to it for general Shin Megami Tensei stuff, but that's what it is. And yeah, there's nothing really changed about the main game to really talk about if you played the original, which is now like an 8-year-old game, so I'm not going to bother talking too much about it. But it's still pretty good. The narrative is still not as good as the first game, but the characters are much better. So that's the trade-off you get with Double Survivor 1 and 2. It's kind of just a thing. I don't know anybody that disagrees with that statement. So it's still fine. The characters are good, and the story is still good. It's not bad. It's just not as good as Double Survivor 1's, which also had its share of problems. But so in this update, they've done a few things that are significant for playing through that I very much so liked mechanically. Before we get into the new content, they have made it so that when you fuse together demons, your little minions, as is tradition in Shin Megami Tensei, you can search by way more than you could in the original Double Survivor games. And Double Survivor 2, I think, was the first one to pioneer the you don't have to just randomly mash things together system, where you can actually search for things and see what you need to make them. So they've improved that feature a lot.
That's for casuals, man.
Yeah, it does make things pretty easy. Just being able to click on Lucifer and just go, okay, I need a Metatron and a Loki, and go down the list until you get them, is very nice, though, because let's be honest. By the time you're actually going to use the search function, you're at endgame and you're going to go up and go on the internet and look up a fusion guide anyway. So this I'm okay with. And they made it so easy to search by race, whether they're in your party or not, whether they're in your stock or not, which is like your bank, and because you can fuse from your stock. So you can set it up so you don't accidentally fuse your party members, which is nice. It's just a really good search fusion system, and I really hope more SMT games start using this, and they seem to. They seem to be adopting the system in the later games because it just makes more sense. People are going to look up a dang fusion guide anyway.
Didn't Persona 5 had some variation on that system?
It's not as clean as the Double Survivor ones, but yes, it did. It cribbed the whole system. Yeah. Yeah, it effectively has what was Double Survivor's fusion search in its original iteration, but in Record Breaker, it's been made even cleaner and easier to use, which is nice. The compendium's still a mess. Compendiums in SMT games are always a mess, which is your your thing, you can pull demons you've already fused out from, but not keep them as active. So it's still a mess. It's really hard to search. You got to scroll through each tab individually. It's a pain in the butt. So, other than that, not a whole lot of stuff has changed for gameplay. They've added a lot of new skills, some of which are really, really broken, like Dual Shadow EX, which just gives you a 25% chance on everybody in your party to repeat an attack. And Shield All EX that just makes you take no damage from anything that doesn't have the Almighty tag. Even Pierce doesn't break it. So breaking the game is really easy. So this has had the unfortunate side effect of making all the super bosses a royal joke that were in the original game, where the only barrier is, do you have enough HP to survive the turns that it'll take you to run up and punch the boss? Because they have map-wide effects that you can't mitigate the damage from. So that is what I've been spending most of my post-game time doing, is sitting in the $1 EXP DLC map, which I was originally very mad they included. But then I realized it's actually too hard to clear if you're playing the game normally, and it's not really viable to clear until you do New Game Plus. So you're better off doing free battles. So I was less mad at it after that. But spending $1 to cut the grinding down from, 12 hours to 2, which I'm almost done just by the time I've had on the show, is pretty good. I'm a fan of that. However, because they have all these new OP skills that make your party unstoppable, the bonus boss that they put in the new arc is really, really not fair. Like, we're approaching Demi-Fiend from Digital Devil Saga levels of not fair. This thing knows Megiddo line, and that's Megiddo, which is the biggest can't block it magical attack in the game. And it increases its damage permanently every time the boss uses it, just like the last game. This is a problem. So you have to have a perfect team comp to basically kill it before it gets the 5th cast off on anybody, or you're going to die. So, and my demons just can't live that long. They die on the 3rd or 4th turn right now. So I've restarted the game, and I'm going to collect every single super boss I didn't beat up when I was running through the first New Game Plus run, where I effectively skipped text, which is a nice new feature, by the way. You don't have to hold the skip text anymore. You can press Y and R to enable text skip. So if you're on New Game Plus, you can just breeze through all the text really fast like that, and it'll just auto skip instead of having to hold down 2 buttons the whole time, which does not seem like it's a big deal, but for games that did not have it before, it is a very big deal. So yeah, what is there really to say about the game other than that stuff? So the new arc in the game. So there's only 2 more things to talk about really with Devil Survivor 2, and that is number 1, the voice acting, and number 2, the new arc. And I'm not exactly sure which order I want to tackle these in. So the new arc is a continuation of the original arc, which left the fate of the world up in the air a little bit, but there were a couple of endings to it that could possibly turn out to be a happy ending. And the new arc basically says, no, they didn't. The new arc starts with...
Because Shin Megami Tensei.
Because Shin Megami Tensei.
It wouldn't be SMT without a bad end.
Yeah, so they do go into a lot of detail in this arc about the mechanics of how the Expanse works, which is universal across all SMT games, and things like they start meddling with the actual Akashic Record and talking about the mechanics of the universe, which is really cool and stuff. But the plot is basically a repeat of the first arc, which was you guys done goofed. The stars are coming to life and are coming down to kill you. Beat them up before they do. In a nutshell. It's more complicated than that, but that's the spoiler-free version of it. And this time, instead of the stars around the 8 stars around the Big Dipper, we have the 4 in this Southern Diamond. The 3 in the Southern Triangle being the big ones. But spoiler alert, if you know anything about one. Not that they don't basically tell you that there's a 4th one right away.
I didn't catch any of that, and since I'm broadcasting.
Yeah, you kind of went boing there.
Oh dear, did I cut out?
Briefly.
Okay, how long? Where did I leave off?
You just...
Oh, it was only a quick twang.
The key part about
about
that in that sentence went away. So, like, if you know anything about... And then silence. So no, we don't know anything about their topic because you didn't tell us
if
what
you
the
know
topic was.
anything about stars, I was talking about.
You just did
if
it
you know
again.
anything about. Yes, I cut myself off. If you know anything about stars or astronomy, then you'll know what's up in the game and what's actually coming, and the game foreshadows it really, really hard. So, yeah. But like I said, the narrative is not the strong point of Devil Survivor 2. It's the characters, and seeing them all get their memories back after the reset button's pushed, because they go with an ending that technically you can't do in the main game. They go with the both the neutral endings mixed together in some weird hybrid of the two. And yeah, it doesn't end well for anybody. But they start getting their memories back, and the new arc is basically about them dealing with that and trying to find a more permanent solution to their attacking star monster problem. So yeah.
Those star
and
monsters. Such
those,
troublemakers.
dim-wacky
Them
star monsters. Yeah, unfortunately, because they are Eldritch Abominations, there's not much to talk about regarding the star monsters. They are Eldritch monsters from space, supposedly.
Space Cthulhu!
Yeah.
Who knows? It's Earthbound all over again.
Yeah. Not quite. I don't want to spoil anything about it because it is a re-release that includes the full game. But yeah, there's a bit more to it than that. And I know a lot of people were turned off by the game because the anime was a terrible Evangelion clone.
It was bad. It was really, really bad.
It was bad. Whenever I mention the game, they're like, "Oh, that terrible Evangelion clone." I'm like, "No, that's the anime."
They can't
the anime
be blamed
is
for that. It is reasonable to expect, for a normal person to expect, that the anime of a game has something to do with the game.
I know it's not their fault, but I'm here to correct them right now. The game has jack all to do with the anime. The story is entirely different. They didn't even bother paying attention to a single character. None of the characters reflect how they act in game. At all. They are, in fact, the total opposite. This is actually one of the funnier and more lighthearted Shin Megami Tensei games out there, and they get none of that in the anime.
Everybody's like super edgy all the time.
Yeah, everybody's an edgelord in the anime. The anime is not a good representation of this game. It is actually a really chill SMT game to play through. If you like strategy games, it's a pretty good entry point in the series because it's so happy and upbeat most of the time during its down moments. I mean, the world's still dying if you don't follow the guide for, generic Atlas BS to get one of the neutral endings, people are going to die, but other than that, it's a fairly happy game. Up to and including your computer expert beating Trumpeter into submission with laptops. Which is a scene I find way too funny. Yeah. So, it has ridiculous moments like that in it.
Obviously, throwing computers at things is the solution.
It's something I'd really want to do right now, in fact.
I just remember that guy healing himself nonstop in Nocturne and seeing an IT girl come up and just beat him to death with laptops. I'm like, you're my new spirit animal. You get the spot for at least a week.
Oh dear.
So yeah, there's moments like that in the game. It has characters like Joe, who is just the 25-year-old derp who he wants to get married. He's a total idiot. But yeah, it's not a sadder dark SMT game at all. It's probably the brightest one in the series. So I recommend people check it out. And I also recommend people check it out because the voice acting in this game is really, really, really good. This game actually has the second. I don't know. I think Persona 5 is number 1, but I forget. It has the second most. It has the. I can English good. It has.
You can words.
Yeah, it has the second most voice dialogue lines in the entire franchise because the route splits are so hard, and they change the story so much at so many different points. So they effectively had to voice like 7 scripts for this game. So, and that's just the normal route. There's like 4 more in the alternate route. No wonder they
were so reluctant to localize it.
Yeah.
Because there was like a huge to-do about getting this localized.
Yeah, this was, and seeing just how much, when I read, it's somewhere like, no joke, over 25,000 lines of voice dialogue.
Good grief.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like, so, but it's all done really well. I guess if they decided they were going to do it, they were going to do it right, because the voice cast they got to come in and do it is all really good, and there isn't a Pappenbrook anywhere in it. In fact, I didn't recognize most of the actors at first, and still can't call them off the top of my head. They're all.
I was about to ask that. Where is Pappenbrook?
Yeah, actually, I think Pappenbrook's like one of the like unnamed background voice NPCs at one point that just like screams something like "We're all going to die when the demons show up," but I don't think that's it. He's not in the actual game. But yeah, all of the characters sound good. We don't have any yoo-hoos from Devil Survivor 1 that just like stick out like a sore thumb. But people that you just don't ever hear very much. We got like Yuri Lowenthal and Wendy Lee coming back, who are pretty big names, and Kaiji Tang. But then you have like, Benjamin Diskin, who I had to look up to remember what the heck he did, because he's mostly in American stuff. And playing your best bro character. And Lauren Landa doing fairly well, like who I also had to look up, and because she does obscure things like Charlotte that nobody wants to watch a second time to watch the dub for. So yeah, it's a really, really good dub. I can't really describe it because it's a bunch of actors that don't get a whole lot of work, but just go on YouTube and check out some of the voices from around the mid part of the story. They're a little shaky at the beginning, but they pick it up really fast. And
Nice.
These guys, and for as much work as these guys had to do, I'm really impressed with what they did. So they get a very special shout out for that. This is definitely a game you won't mind not having the option to switch to Japanese. So yeah, that is that bitchy game. And that's basically all I really had time to play because my work week started up again. And being a portable game, it does have the convenience of being able to play while I'm sitting around waiting on other people to do their job.
Yes.
So,
No wonder you can complete
So,
all
I've
of
been-
these games so often.
yes.
If you're sitting around in an office doing nothing.
The amount of time I could save if people would just stop goofing off and get the job done, it would be wonderful.
Can't have that, though.
Can't have that, though.
Cannot
Always a
have
holdup
that.
somewhere. Or somebody that takes too long to respond to an email and I know he ain't got anybody else to talk to. Like, ugh. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. But yes, that is your game recommendation for now. It is still going to be SMT season for about another 2 months, since all my circles I follow are talking about, at least somebody in them is talking about the updated re-release of Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey Redux, which is getting its localization real soon. Like,
Nobody played Strange Journey.
nobody plays Strange.
Nobody played it.
They all
even
basically
the
didn't
people
market it
talk about
at all either.
No, it came out in a time before Persona took off, before there was the endurance run of Persona 4 to make it popular, back when the only SMT game we really had was, Nocturne, because nobody played Eternal Punishment either, because it was part 2 of a duology that we didn't have the first half of yet. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so when Strange Journey comes out in an obscure franchise that nobody knows, with a title that sounds like a spin-off game, nobody's played it. I didn't play it.
Nope.
And yeah, so this has been a problem, however, amongst SMT fans, because as time has gone on, it has become very clear in the mainline games that Strange Journey is not a spin-off. It's actually one of the most important games to the mainline games timeline and the core story going on. So
yeah, but they don't tell you this.
Yeah, but they don't tell you this. And I found this out digging around, just looking at games that were coming out, and was like, oh, SMT Strange Journey is getting a re-release. That was that Etrian like spin-off hybrid thing that was terrible, right? No, actually, apparently it was really good at the time because it used an auto map feature and you didn't have to map it yourself. But nobody played it because it was A, called Strange Journey, and B, SMT before Persona was popular. So nobody knew about it. But yeah, it's getting, surprisingly, the whole dang treatment that Devil Survivor 2 and 1 did. It's getting full voice acting, updated mechanics to bring it more in line with modern SMT games, redesigns of a ton of demons, boosting the roster up to most of the current demon roster across the Super franchise. Like, they're giving it the works. It's got like 3 new routes in it or something like that. It's
Nice.
a fairly impressive effort on Atlus's part. Now, unfortunately, with these re-releases, they keep tacking on an easy mode to them, which bugs the crap out of me. as somebody that enjoys the discussion aspect of these games after you beat them, discussing it with somebody and having that nagging little thing in the back of your head that says they played this game on Blessed instead of Apocalypse, they're terrible video gamers, is something that I can never get rid of because it's there now. And unfortunately, I just have to kind of live with it. Where Apocalypse is the original difficulty for all these re-release games, and Blessed is the new baby mode that cuts all the damage, and it doubles your damage output and halves their damage, the damage they can do to you. I'm not a fan.
Easy mode. Very much
Basically,
easy
the game
mode.
plays itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. There have been... Oh, never mind. But yeah, I'm not happy about that. Thankfully, they managed to keep the DLC fairly in check. With Devil Survivor 2, at least, the DLC only included a bunch of maps to make New Game Plus easier, and stuff like completing the compendium easier. None of it, aside from the Maka map, which you can figure out how to exploit, but you already have to be pretty familiar with the series to do so, can't really be exploited on your first playthrough. Because all Shin Megami Tensei games have diminishing returns on EXP the higher level you are compared to the monster's level. Once you get more than about 5 or 6 levels above the monster, it's not giving you EXP anymore. So until you get to New Game Plus in most games, you can't turn that off and break that. So there isn't a way to cheese the game's difficulty with the DLC, at least, which I am thankful for. And the DLC was actually only $1 for each map, and there were 6 maps that all allow you to make one type of grinding easier, which is okay, I guess. They're not substantial, but they're, a candy bar. So I can live with that. But yeah, that is about everything I've done for entertainment I can talk about that people might be interested in picking up. The rest is not very interesting, unfortunately. And the rest has been work.
Okay.
Lots of work. So, yeah, I've been chilling with the demons and punching Lucy and Metatron in the face in various games. Been a big S&T week.
Yes. Shall we dive straight into some news?
What news?
I got a few newses.
Okay. We do have a few newses. I'll have to get you guys to steer during this bit, though, because this isn't going to be easy.
I'll just keep going. I've only got allergies. Vaul's still got the sick, and you've got the dead computers.
Yes.
So, continuing on companies doing a good job that you should pay attention to, because it's the best segue we got. Has announced Gwent Homecoming, which is effectively their pre-release, game's almost ready to be done event. So
yeah, how long's Gwent been in beta, by the way?
It's one of those that's been in beta way too long.
Yes.
We're at 1.5 years plus now.
That sounds about right, yes.
Yeah, it is effectively a released card game at this point. But yeah, they're actually listening to players, and the reason I bring this up, because beta games update all the time, right? So aside from the point that I play Gwent occasionally, the way they announced this was they put up this big graphic that had the following points on it. It said gameplay, turning Gwent into a battlefield, generic marketing stuff, refocusing on core mechanics, which has been a huge complaint about the game from the hardcore player base, fixing the coin mechanic, which is, the go first, go second thing, because that's a big deal when you can't draw any cards in the card game on your turn, unless you play a card. Going first is kind of a big deal in that situation, so they're looking into that, which we've complained about forever. They're fixing the board to make it more interesting, upgrading the board. Basically, this whole thing boils down to a list of bullet points that has been some of the most popular things people have liked to complain about on the forum. Revamp player progression, focusing on skill and player agency. Things like this are on the dang graphic to announce the thing before the title of the event. This is why we like CD Projekt Red.
Yes.
And this is a free update, granted it's a TCG, so to pull any of the actual 100 or so cards that'll come out with it, you've got to, pay for the cards, but...
Just one thing on this thing. What is this note about bringing back The Witcher?
I have no idea.
No idea? Okay.
It could be a reference to one of Geralt's cards being absolutely busted. It's a staple in every deck. It's so busted, and you just have to assume both players have it. because he has
Or
like
is it
4.
just the game getting off theme, maybe?
No, he's just got like 4 or 5 versions of himself, and one of them just happens to have a neutral effect that's splashable in any deck that's really, really good.
Okay.
I forget exactly what it does. I haven't played Gwent in a while, and I only very recently pulled that card. Well, crafted that card. I didn't pull it because their crafting system is very, very good and forgiving in that game. But yeah, that might be what it's talking about. I don't know what that specific bullet point is talking about. That's why I skipped over it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So yeah, they're actually listening to a lot of criticism they got, and a lot of this criticism came up with the holiday update around December-ish. So the Christmas update didn't sit so well with a lot of hardcore players, and I was starting to feel some of their complaints as the game went on. But they're addressing it, which is really cool. And I like Gwent. I want to see Gwent do well. I know Gwent's not going to do great, but I would like to see it survive and be, a game you can still play occasionally with some players in it.
Well, Hearthstone's apparently trying to commit suicide, so...
It seems just completely intent on blowing themselves up, don't they?
I got into I could have wrote a college lecture with how much I wrote about card game design discussing Hearthstone with somebody this week. Because they did not get a few things about basic card design that I learned many years ago.
Maybe you should, write it all down and send it to Blizzard and they will ignore it.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. Been brought up by players, but the players that have brought them up are not, MLG Magic the Gathering pro players or Hearthstone pro players as they only listen to now. They don't even listen to the Magic folk anymore.
No, they don't.
Well,
They barely even listen to their Hearthstone pro players.
Yeah.
It seems to me that they don't really have much motivation to listen to the players. Like, they aren't there to make a good game, they're there to sell.
Yeah,
it's a money spinner.
Revolving door product. Yeah, they've got another one with the WoW themes tacked on it. So they have 2 Warcraft games that are revolving doors at this point. That's just going to keep churning them money.
Mm-hmm.
They have no motive thing other than make the presentation as flashy and attractive as possible. But if you actually play TCGs, there is one card game on the market that actually understands TCG design that's a digital card game, and that's Gwent. Gwent is the only one that has people on the dev team that have played more than Magic.
And to a lesser degree, I suppose, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links.
Well, Duel Links is more a response of a lot of Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! Players that play both in Japan. Were looking at Konami at tournaments and going, you need to fix some things and then institute a game mode to not let this game die, because at the rate it was going, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was going to die.
Oh, yes.
So they laid out the law for this is how card design actually works. This is what we've seen in various TCGs. You don't do this. Slow the game freaking down. Turn should not take 10 cards.
Nobody likes a one-turn kill.
Yeah, well, that's all Yu-Gi-Oh! Was.
Yes.
It was already fast when I played it. But yeah, that's how Duel Links came into existence, was effectively a bunch of people that played both Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! Sat some people down at a tournament and said, okay, listen, Konami, your game's going to die if you don't do this, and they actually listened. And they tried it out with Duel Links, and it was super successful. And now they're trying to push it as a major format. Now they're pushing that as a major format. It's almost like people that sit there and literally do research about how to build a better deck 24 hours a day know what they're talking about when it comes to TCG card design. Who knew?
Who knew? I know. Blizzard certainly doesn't know.
Yeah, Blizzard certainly doesn't know, because Blizzard has a bunch of casual Magic fans that said, we want to make a card game. Let's make it flashy, and people will buy it because it has the Warcraft logo on it. And
okay, you have a fun core. Now what? It's not balanced.
And they suckered all me and the other TCG players into it, and like, hey, it's got potential. It's fairly simple right now. I wonder what they'll... Oh no, we're out. Peace. This is the story of Hearthstone in a nutshell.
Anyway, let's not beat that dead horse anymore. There's not much horse left.
Well, it deserves a fresh beating every time another game does something better to get people out of the game. Some users out of that dead horse and make it cough them back up to send them somewhere else where they'll have more fun, we win.
Gross, but yes.
That is the goal in bringing them up in cases like this. So yes, I'm there. The particular article I linked on Tech Raptor has like a few grievances that don't say they're addressing stuff on the forums, but the stuff they're talking about is incredibly niche and class specific and race specific. So I'm not, it's whatever. It's more important to address the core stuff before you change the smaller stuff.
Yeah.
So the guy on Tech Raptor doesn't really have a clue what he's talking about, but yeah.
Okay.
So, that was CD Projekt Red. So yes, who are number one for at least customer relations, as far as the gaming company goes. Them's good people.
Them's good people. They keep doing good things, like giving back credit for the Australia tax on good old games.
Yeah, we love you, CD Projekt Red.
Keep doing you.
Yep. I suppose we
What's
can
next?
use it to segue. Paul, do you want to start a topic, or do you want me to just keep going?
Well, you can pick a topic.
He's coughing.
I don't know if I can find that friggin'. I think I've got like a certain amount of MP in my throat, and I think I spent it all.
Oh dear.
But that's
All right.
been pretty much the case throughout the course of this illness. But I'm definitely getting better, because I was able to do most of the first part of the show without going into a fit. But I'll try and find something. Where did our list go? Oh, here it is.
You might have to scroll up a bit. There's a small little section of freaking out about dead computers.
Okay, one just quick thing that I linked to Ari earlier in the week was the guy who is responsible for Legend of Legaia has passed away.
Yes.
I don't know.
This is-
I've never had a good idea of how many people know about Legend of Legaia, or are fond of Legend of Legaia, or not, because it never received any marketing to speak of.
I was the only person I knew that had played the game until you told me you played the game.
Me and all of my friends had played it, so we thought that everybody knew about it, and it turned out that no, that's not the case at all.
Yeah, I had the exact opposite experience. Like, Legend of Legaia was my replacement for essentially what everybody else would call their Final Fantasy VII at that time in the gaming era, because I could not get my hands on Final Fantasy VII at the time. So Legend of Legaia. Yeah. Well,
Wrong one.
So Legend of Legaia filled that niche for me. So I am fairly close to that game and remember it pretty fondly. So yeah, it's sad. I don't really know any of the other stuff this guy did though. I only know him for Legend of Legaia, and I didn't even know his name until he passed away.
Yeah, I think it was that sort of game though. Like, it sort of came from nowhere and disappeared into nowhere. Like, I never finished the second one. I did play it, but it's not in any way similar to the original.
Yeah, it was.
So,
I have it sitting around somewhere, but I didn't get very far because it was so different.
I made it a good way in. I just didn't make it all the way because the story just didn't have a lot of momentum to it. It wasn't really. It didn't have the sort of save the world grunt that that the original one did. So yeah.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of stuff that's to like in the original Legend of Legaia that was, for its time, a very good pickup of what Final Fantasy VII was doing, and had a whole lot of cool innovations, and at least in it. Some of them probably is better that it didn't stick, like the weird combo system, but it was novel. Yeah. I think I liked it as long as it's just in Legaia. If it spread to any other games, I'd start to really not like it real fast.
Oh no, you wouldn't want it to become any kind of industry standard. No, sir.
No, that would be awful. So, but yeah, it's also one of those games that's impossible for people to get. Like, people can't play Legend of Legaia real easy. It's basically get a PS1 version or go home. There's no PSN store that has it. None of the regions have it on the PSN at all.
Yeah, well, I don't even know where my copy is. That's I don't.
It's in a drawer somewhere, I'm sure.
I think it's one of those games which is sort of legendary now. I was always quite impressed by it because I loved it at least as much as I loved any of the Final Fantasy games that I had played, and it blatantly had a tiny sliver of the budget.
Yeah, what they're able to do just by decent writing and real good imagination with that world is really impressive. Plus, its minigames blew Final Fantasy VII's out the water.
Well, Final Fantasy VII's minigames were basically a type of masochism.
There was a lot of them.
Like, Legend of Legaia was the first thing that had, like, you could go into the casino area and you could play, like, any type of genre game you wanted as a minigame. There's a rhythm game in there with the terrible, like, pre-rendered out-of-battle graphics of the characters doing dances.
Yeah.
Ew.
It was, for its time, it was absolutely amazing to walk in the casino and see a functional version of all the genres of games ever in there. They even had a rudimentary fighting game.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it was...
Though it was rock, paper, scissors.
It gave me the impression of being quite a labour of love for the people who made it, because it was just so absurd. But such a grand spectacle as far as execution went. It was really, really good. The localization was full of issues, but you could look past them because the game was good.
Yeah, for 1997, 1999, whenever that game came out, it was, it was pretty good for what we got. Might have been 2000s, early 2000s. It's hard to tell. That whole era just kind of blends into a blob, and I don't remember when anything was. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's sad. He did good.
He done a good.
The people that like Legend of Legaia still talk about it whenever they can actually find somebody that played it. So his legacy will live on through that at least a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right.
We need to see his name.
I'm trying to find the article because I lost it in all my tabs.
Hidenori Shibao.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. If you have not played Legaia and you somehow have a method of playing it and you still have your original PS1 laying around somewhere and you haven't played it yet, it probably hasn't aged very well, and I don't know if I should recommend it to you or not, but I really liked it when I was younger.
Yeah, I think most people
that have
played
that
it
game
these days have played it on emulation because it's the only way you can play it ever.
I've heard it's had some problems with clock speeds. I tried to emulate it once, and I had an issue with clock speed on it where no amount of patches of trying to throttle it could save it. It was something to do with enemy spawn rates when you were in the overworld or something. But yeah, it can be played on modern emulators. I do know that. But at the time I tried it, it was a pain in the butt. So if you're going to try it, be aware of that.
Okay.
So yeah.
Next article. And I know I'm trying to look at them on the tablet, but that bad civilization picture that's in there just keeps blocking everything out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel that way a lot of the time.
Gachas are evil. Gachas are bad civilization.
The FGO manga Altera is my spirit animal.
Yeah. I love Altera in that setting. Like, she's as insane as the rest of them, but she's sort of insane everyone can sort of sympathize with, except for Ari.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick a new topic. Okay, you got one?
Yep, I found one. Blazblue Cross Tag Battle looks really good coming up, and we got the collector's edition coming out.
Yeah, so this is more of a do about a thing that's happening since we've covered it a little bit than an actual article.
It's a thing.
So Blazblue Cross Tag Battle will have a collector's edition for both PS4 and Switch. It's got first off, it gets a check mark for having a full color 52-page art book, and the soundtrack not being 8, it's 15, which is acceptable. I'm still, you still owe me like a 30-song soundtrack at least when I pay you $100 IMO for a video game. But
I don't understand.
15's better than.
I don't understand that. Why do they always prune the soundtracks so ruthlessly when they put them in?
It's not only does missing a bunch of songs, but usually you only get about half of some of the soundtrack. Like, you'll get a minute of a given piece of music, in some cases.
Yeah, like the
Blizzard.
version, like I had to get out my Devil Survivor 2 box to play it, and the soundtrack in there, I looked at it, it's got 4 songs on it. But that was a day
Wow.
one release, not a collector's edition. So day one release is a freebie. Okay, that's different. The collector's edition, give me the whole,
Yeah,
OST.
you have to pay a mint to get those things.
Yeah. Hey, Bioshock 2 remains to have the best soundtrack. It was on vinyl.
Bioshock 2 is the best Bioshock, and I don't care what any of the libtards say because they didn't get it.
Anyway, it also comes with a steelbook case, which is, fairly standard these days.
I don't know why
Yeah,
anybody cares.
I mean,
Yep.
that's essentially your acrylic figures that inevitably will come in this thing will not get broken because the case is not made of plastic.
No.
That is, we don't trust
they-
the U.S. Postal Service clause in the collector's edition. That's what that is.
No. The acrylics are... There are 4 acrylic figures. They've got Narukami, Hyde, Ruby, and Ragnar.
Yeah, so all the main characters,
Why does Ruby deserve to stand alongside those others?
because Arc System Works conned Rooster Teeth into giving them a whole lot of their internet money.
I guess.
What, you think it worked that direction? I mean, I guess I don't know.
I believe that Carrie is stupid enough to mismanage the IP that it's possible.
Yep. And
The
last but certainly not least, the most important thing in this collector's edition, it comes in a
The
box.
The box! The fabulous
It
box!
comes with a box!
My goodness.
How long until they tell us there's paint on the box and that's the feature?
It's got words on it.
Well, I mean, we've
Well,
already seen them start to stop putting the game in the box. Like, that's already a thing.
Yeah,
There is
thankfully
at
that's not
least
the
the
case
game
this
in the
time.
box. They at least put the game in the box. That's the very first
Yeah.
thing on the list. The game is in the box.
Now, I
So
have seen
stupid.
some mention of it, not in this article though, but the Nintendo Switch version of this game also comes with a case for your Switch, themed on Cross Tag Battle as well.
I think there's a few
cannot
games that have been doing that.
Hmm.
That seems to be a thing
See-
with Switch.
Why don't a lot of games do this? Instead of, doing a limited edition console release with, Monster Hunter theming, just release a empty case that you can put onto your console.
Give the other
And then just
consoles
buy
something-
that.
Yeah, give the other consoles something unique that the other consoles can't use, period. That's a pretty good
Yeah.
solution.
Realistically-
And
I think that stuff would sell like hotcakes if you just sold it.
Totally would. I would love to be able to put a different skin on my PS4.
Yeah,
There's too many variants of PS4 and Xbox One now, so it's not really feasible.
if you give me a whole controller, I'll buy your collector edition, even if I don't like your game.
Yeah.
Those things are expensive.
Whenever they've done collector's edition controllers, though, they usually jack up the price something horrible as well.
Yeah. Yeah, controllers are so expensive nowadays. That's where they make their dang money.
Mm-hmm. Well, come on, Microsoft has that whole line of create your own custom controller thing going now.
Oh, Microsoft's default controllers are the worst. They still want $60 for a 360 pad for PC.
Yeah, they
You
do.
know how long it took me to find a workable $20 one that was used to replace my old one? 2 years. Because I wasn't paying $60 new for one. Sony's almost as bad.
Sony is almost as bad, yes.
Well, I mean, realistically, they've been pretty committed at their quest of killing the couch multiplayer. So they probably
they
just
have.
move the sort of volume of controllers that they used to, because people don't need more than one.
Call it now. Next generation of consoles will only have a single controller and will not work with others.
At least Sony was kind enough to allow most custom controllers that were third party to be able to, have a version that has a little switch on the bottom that lets you use it on PS3 or PS4. I've seen that on 4 different controllers, and my Hordy Pad has one, which is really nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at least they were kind enough to let you do that. So they are much cheaper because of that. Although first party ones are still, don't buy a first party controller from Sony. Just don't do that. It's very expensive.
It is.
Well, to be
Alright,
fair,
what else we got?
It's also true that they're
Oh.
getting ridiculously more complex.
This
That
is
is
also
A
true.
controller used to just be a bundle of switches. It's got all sorts of weird accelerometers and sensors and lights and touchpads and crap all attached to it now. Most of which
now
is
there's
flagrantly unnecessary.
I do
Oh,
like
yeah.
that a bunch of the faffy stuff on a controller can bring down its price if you choose to get a version of a third-party controller that doesn't have it, specifically the light bar. Because who needs the battery drainer on the back of your controller in reality?
No one, except if you're playing something like Screen Sheet and you need to know who's playing what color. That's it.
Yeah, like there are very few games that use that, and it's very impractical unless you've got more than 2 people sitting in a room. So
Yeah.
I like the ability to go through the absolute, tidal wave of knockoff controllers and find ones from decent brands that are cheaper than the main one, and they have to base their price point on the base one, but they're like, ours is this much cheaper because it doesn't have a light bar, and that kind of gives them a mentality to drop the price, even if that company normally doesn't. NTX is a good company that does that. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So anyway,
that is your Duke to do for Cross Tag Battle.
Also,
Yeah.
one other thing to add to that is that I saw, whatchamacallit, Arc System Works had linked a poll that had been put up by someone else about what other franchise people would like to see added to Cross Tag Battle. And normally that's just, a fan wishful thinking, but the fact is that it was linked by Arc System Works. So,
yep.
yeah, and there's been other news coming out that they are looking to add maybe 2 additional IPs, whether through DLC or before a launch, I don't know, probably DLC, but yeah, they are looking to
Probably
add additional IPs, including Fate Stay Night and Melty Blood are both under consideration.
Yeah. Ark and French Bread have a good relationship, and French Bread has actually managed to get Nasu sober for 5 minutes to sign a contract. So
That's not an easy feat. Yeah, I wouldn't complain to seeing, Fate Stay Night, Saber, and Archer show up. And probably Gil.
I would like to see Cross Tag Battle turn into a testing ground for IPs and whether they can be converted into a fighting game or not. I think that's a fairly good idea for a spin-off series. I mean,
if they're going
this is
to make
already
more than one, then I can see that being a sort of future for them, because I'm sure that a Fate Stay Night fighting game would sell like hotcakes if they made it properly.
Oh yeah,
if they made it properly.
Fate Granddaughter fighting game, bring it on.
Well, Granddaughter's cast is too insane, like it's too large, but amongst the main
it is also
series,
insane.
Like if you just picked Fate Stay Night, Fate Zero, Apocrypha, and Extra, that would give you an enormous cast to work with, and you could do whatever you like in that universe. There's a lot of
heck, you can just start with
Apocrypha
Stay
on
Night.
its own.
Yeah, you could just start with Stay Night / Apocrypha, or Holotraxia rather, and just do those 2 and just start there, because these kind of games only ever start with like somewhere in the ballpark of 10 to 18 characters when Arc System Works first releases them. So the rosters are not super huge. They get super huge as they make new sequels, but they don't start that way.
But
so
that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that they've got all of this material ready-made. They don't need to go through any of the concepting stuff. The IP exists. It's highly detailed. There's a lot of backstory, a lot of material, and Nasu loves to write the sort of absurd crap that they turn into single-player campaigns.
I can see it. It could definitely happen.
And I want a reason to actually practice at a fighter, and Fate Stay Night one would be that reason.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I would play it. Of course, they have to talk French Bread into finding a way to sober Nasu up and drag him out of his basement. But
yeah,
well, he's probably sober a lot of the time these days. He's got so much to do since he's got his finger in every imaginable pie.
Oh, that has just got a perpetual buzz going.
That boy, and the interviews I've read about his personal life, he is living it up after he lucked out with Stay Night getting popular.
Oh, who wouldn't?
He's like, I got money, man.
At least he's not as bad as Zune, who is a legit alcoholic.
Yeah.
I mean, his property is incredibly popular as well. It's just not a money spinner.
Yeah. Oh dear, I feel sorry for the 7th expansion guys. We're like, we can write music and write stories, but we ain't got no artists. They still don't have an artist. They finally got one for the re-releases of Umineko.
Oh dear.
Maybe they'll finally get popular and they can start living the dream too. Although they got a fighting game, to be fair. So maybe
Well,
Face Day Night's up next.
Yeah, they sort of got a fight.
Really major ones left.
I don't know if it's worth really ennobling that as a fighting game.
Golden Fantasia was pretty good. It wasn't a bad game.
Yeah, but
It's
does
one,
anybody
as
on
good
Earth
as
play it?
People played it for like a whole 2 weeks when I first picked it up on Steam when it came back out. That's pretty good.
Well, I mean, that's better than, like, Lawbreakers.
Oh boy, there's a tangent.
Got a good. Oh boy.
I like how the article's coming out about how, the developers decided to, like, change direction and work on different stuff. It's like, yeah, like you had a choice.
Yeah, but what did he do? He went from Lawbreakers and tangented right into Battle Royale. And guess what? It's failing. It's failing miserably.
Yeah. Speaking of things that are failing miserably.
Oh?
Oh, I was going to use that to segue.
Go ahead.
Okay, so some PlayStation games are losing some online features. So this is an addendum to the doop-de-doo. So,
Do?
nobody plays these games, to be completely honest, but they're losing it anyway. So
Some of these games are pretty old.
the only one people might still be playing is Gravity Rush 2. So Counter-Spy, Gravity Rush 2, Little Big Planet Karting, and Mod Nation Racers are losing their online functionality. They're old, the servers are going down, it's time for them to go away.
I was under the impression Sony was going to make Little Big Planet into an ongoing thing. They seem to have forgotten it exists.
Yeah, they've got this, what is it, a Dreamscape game that team's working on now.
From what I understand, the spin-off games did not do very well, and the mainline games are not selling well enough to make it a super major franchise. They sell well, but not like, like they wanted it to. Not
like Little Big Planet Karting was fine, but Mod Nation Racers was much, much better. And it's going away too.
Yeah. So yeah, those 4 games are losing their online stuff. Oh no.
Yeah. Oh no.
They remember how much
I don't
they
think
used
there's really anyone
to
close.
shill Sackboy?
Yeah.
They tried to.
He was everywhere.
They went through a phase of plastering him on everything.
He was the kid-friendly mascot they tried to push.
He was their panic attempt to win back appeal with the masses after they flopped up a bit during the initial launch of the PS3 360 era.
And still better than
Yeah.
Bubsy.
Anything is better than Bubsy. Bubsy was just god-awful.
Yeah.
And his newest game released a few months ago. And guess what? It was god-awful.
Why would you expect anything different from Bubsy?
Bubsy has never had a good game. His first game was okay-ish, and that's it. The rest were crap. Oh boy.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
problem is Sony tried to push Sackboy as a mascot, but at the same time they were also pushing things like Kratos.
Kratos is not a mascot.
No,
sorry, you're not
probably
going to
murdered the
find
mascot.
you're not going to find a world where he's mascot worthy.
No.
Yeah. Although Dad of War is coming out later this month.
And
like
still
a week or so.
nobody really cares. Like there's hardcore God of War fans care, but most people just think that it's God of War's gone soft. It's not going to be hardcore anymore.
I am dubious of it simply because it's a critical darling.
Yeah, but I think it's probably a critical darling because it's gone soft. Like it used to be that that Kratos' whole thing was to basically be violently mad at everything in sight. And
so this is Kratos. He's being a parent. He's grown a beard, but once you actually get into the game, you're probably going to find he's brutally murdering and dismembering things in front of this kid.
Yeah, but that's not what they're making. What they're making is a touching character story now.
Yeah, which is not Kratos.
And
Yeah.
that's
It's not God of War.
I say that it's not going to be God of War. It's just going to be something like a game meant to appeal to critics wearing God of War's skin.
Yeah.
And this is just going to be the same sort of problem that happens every time you get somebody who fancies themselves a visionary has the opportunity to make whatever they want, and then they get handed a big brand which guarantees that no matter what they violate it with, it will still be somewhat popular.
At least initially.
It's
Yeah.
it's a critical darling though. The critics are going crazy about it, and I'm like, God of War was like Baby's Devil May Cry with a very angry man instead of Uncle Dante. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was a game, but really really easy compared to all the other games in it. But it had a really just over the top angry man in it, and that's what you played the games to watch. Without the over the top angry man and switching to wonky third person, adventure action, which is the one of the more popular genres, you're losing a lot of your selling points to people that actually played the original God of Wars.
Yeah.
Maybe they figure that
They've
everybody
gone
who
that
played
way.
the original God of War is now a dad, and therefore will find the story touching.
I guess.
Like, you could maybe make this work if he kills brutally like 20 people and he doesn't start to have a heart until the end of the game. But they're building this up like he's already got one.
If he dies towards the end and the child ends up becoming an extremely angry man.
Like, Kratos is a very mad man. He's a very angry person. He hates everybody and kills all the things. There's blood and gore everywhere.
All of them.
That is God of War.
That's all he does.
Anything with any level of divinity, he kills it.
If they've turned it into,
Angrily.
good dad simulator with a little bit of light murder, then they may have been better off with a new franchise instead of ruining God of War.
Well, I think that they saw the opportunity to exploit the existing franchise, and the game exists because the franchise already exists. Like, they think they have is some method of accessing existing God of War fans and making them swallow their touching character story. Like, which is a nonsense way of approaching fans of a particular product.
Oh, you hear that? I hear it. It sounds like DMC.
Yeah, it's pretty much DMC. It's not like the same direction, but it is the same principle.
Yes.
It is just in a not as offensive way. It's pretty hard to be as offensive as Dino was.
I mean,
no, it's not.
If the kid dies in the first 5 minutes and makes Kratos angrier, then, that maybe makes sense, but I don't think that that's where they're going.
He doesn't. The kid, from what reports I've seen, forms a good basis of game mechanics.
But I don't want to play Pokemon and God of War. I don't even want
It's
Kratos
closer to Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons.
I don't
even want
to play God of War where Kratos has a ranged weapon. Like, ever.
Yeah.
No. Well, yeah, Sword on Chain is as rangy as we want to get.
It's not a ranged weapon, though. That's just a really big melee weapon.
It's a melee weapon that he throws a lot.
It comes back, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
it gives me Last of Us vibes more than anything else whenever I see the trailers for it. Like, that was an okay game. It was good for one playthrough, and then I never want to play it again.
You got the story out of it.
Yeah, it's about all. It's got that kind of feel to it.
Also,
like,
mushroom zombies.
Like, the point of God of War games and their actual gameplay, aside from Kratos, was they're supposed to be replayable. They're fairly easy because their difficulty isn't in beating them; it's in getting high scores and unlocking ridiculous stuff.
Like the cow costume.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Is it an angry cow?
He has lovely udders.
Oh,
to quote Blackadder.
But yeah,
so,
if you turned it into Last of Us or whatever, instead of having the fast pace, knock 'em dead, kill all the things gameplay of the originals, you kind of have to rework the entire formula, and that makes it a different franchise essentially. So yeah, everybody that was looking forward to this game, please wait until the reviews come out. Listen to your friends, listen to people you trust on the internet, not the major gaming critics.
I don't know. I'm not really sure who these people are that listen to the major gaming critics. They keep talking, so maybe there is people who listen to them, but it doesn't really seem to make
There are
sense
view numbers under their videos that tell me people still listen to them.
I don't get
And
it.
the dislike bar is not all gray.
I really don't get it. They're not. They don't contribute anything most of the time. They do what would be most accurately characterized as an imaginary job, which is to be professional critics of toys. So
Yeah, but people just are looking to buy a new toy, and they'll go on the first link they see, and it's going to be one of these major news sites. When the gaming crowd super hardcore. So
I don't know. Like I guess the fact is that I've always been a gamer, and the idea that the media is on the take is sort of like there's no part of that is new. there's the baseline assumption is that these people cannot be trusted because they sell the products that they review in their own magazines.
yeah, like there's conflict of interest everywhere. But yeah, with their tech issues going on, I don't want to get us off on too hard a tangent there. But you had a pet project this week that you were following. Do you want to do that on the show, or you want to keep it in Discord?
Oh right, I was trying to remember what you were talking about, but it was a big kerfuffle over the past couple of days and on social media as far as gaming is concerned. So it's sort of topical, if nothing else. I just accidentally mounted a Rathian, which I did not know was even there. Well, at any rate, it serves me right to jump attack off of things for no reason. But there was this thing that had been sort of like rumoured, and anybody who's been in Discord over the past couple of days has probably seen me comment on this matter. But there's how do I describe it? It was just a thing that had been advertised, and nobody really knew what the story was or where it was going or what it was for. But it seemed to be, and we mentioned it on the show previously, that there was going to be like I think we mentioned it on a show previously. I'm not 100% sure about that.
Can't remember. Maybe?
It was basically, it looked like it was going to be another one of those things like the Frag Dolls.
That's actually the name I was trying to think of.
All girl pro gamer team. Only this one had like a slice of added social justice in the sense that it was going to be directed at finding misogynists online and beating them at their own game, sort of thing. And the self-proclaimed A-team gamers.
Don't let me. I just can't help but laugh at this whole thing.
It was absurd on its face, and it doesn't stop being absurd at any point. In fact, the absurdity continues to escalate as the story goes on. But it turns out that while that's what people thought that it might be, that's not really what it was. And it was, in fact, several things, none of which were that. So what they advertised, moved on to advertising, was that they were going to have a stream of some kind, and that the stream was going to be, I guess, an inaugural for their project. And their project was that they would have, this was entirely feminist focused, and in fact their logo that they introduced was, a blatantly feminism centric logo. And they said that, when women are harassed on games, they can contact the bully hunters, and then we'll send in a bully hunter to go and deal with the person who is harassing them in game. And so they had this big presentation on stream where they showed off this thing. They had somebody called in a case of harassment in a video game. And they sent in their bully hunter to go in there and, do something. I don't really know what it was. I didn't watch it.
Go and sort them out.
If you listen to Internet Aristocrat, they sent the bully hunter in there to go and get ignominiously killed by the harasser. But
yes,
the whole thing was one of the cringiest things I have ever laid eyes on. Let's just say that. And in fact, I don't see how you could ever face yourself again if you were part of something this absurd.
I know. A complete lack of self-awareness.
Yeah, and that's, par for the course with these types. At any rate,
yes.
This thing basically started to unravel at the seams in almost 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds. I was, in fact, impressed at the sheer speed that they went from being incredibly full of themselves to pretending that nothing had happened and nothing had existed to begin with, basically. So this thing started to unravel not along one particular axis, but along all of them. So
Every possible
they
axis.
premised this on the basis that, oh well, there's lots of women who would like to play games, but they've been harassed out of it, and so the reason why there are so few girl gamers is not because girls are less interested in video games on average or anything like that, but because evil misogynists keep them out by bullying them away from the hobby. You know, this old song and dance that we've heard goodness only knows how many times before at this point. But so that was the old canard that they were working with, and they cited a bunch of statistics in order to support this. One of which was something like there were 3 million people who had been harassed in gaming or something like that. 3 million, which is a very large number. And studies
There are
apparently
dozens
showed
of
this.
us. Dozens.
The reality is that the largest studies on these types of topics that have ever been committed to, costing millions of dollars to conduct, usually manage to net maybe a couple tens of thousands of participants. Nowhere near 3 million. It's not possible to get numbers like that. It would be a logistical impossibility.
Nope.
And most people know that. Like, most people with a clue know that. But they got called out by some people who actually study the social sciences and who arrange these sorts of studies and actually publish material. And the first thing that I saw, because I actually saw this unfolding in real time on my Twitter feed, because I smelt red meat, basically. And the woman who was... There was a woman who was a researcher into mental health, and basically was like, oh, can you please give me a citation for this, because this seems like really important material to know about if somebody's actually managed to do a study like this. This could be crucial information. How sincere she was about believing that they actually had anything to give her, I doubt that she was especially sincere, but she came off like a person who was certainly passionate about the topic, generally speaking. Now, the response from the person organising this bully hunter thing was to say, yeah, there's definitely a source, tune in at X o'clock to find out. And this was like, basically got decried as the most heinously self-promoting bullcrap that people had ever seen, and people started to tear into her, and it was basically it devolved into everybody participating in the conversation explaining exactly how impossible it was for her to have this particular study because the study couldn't be conducted in principle. Following on from that, people started to come into that particular thread. People who had known this woman in particular in the past and had falling outs with her because apparently she is a relentless fame hound.
Oh boy.
Basically addicted to self-promotion. So, yeah, things started to devolve further for her. On the bully hunter front, as opposed to the credibility of your research front, it was rapidly exposed that the gameplay footage that they were showing on stream of their bullied people and their bully hunters was not merely fabricated, but that in what was presented, the bully hunters and the people being bullied were not merely both actors, but were both the same person, as was the person doing the bullying.
It's probably worth also pointing out that the time period from the start of this this presentation to the time when everything was completely unraveled, laid out, and this woman had tried to completely distance herself from the bully hunter scene, 1 hour.
It was less than that. It was about 30 minutes.
The stream ended after about 35 minutes.
Yeah, but the thing is that a lot of these things had already started unraveling. Like the part about the research that I mentioned, that happened in the morning before the show even started. Yes. And it got worse. It got worse for them as things went along. Now, the obvious motivation for this is the sort of, you know, crass feminism that we see so much of these days, which has nothing to do with the real world in any capacity, and has more to do with, you know, turning sympathy into profit, which is apparently a big industry these days, as it seems.
It is.
But the at the root of all of this you know, basically crass social justice attention farming was SteelSeries, the game's peripheral manufacturer.
Oh, yes.
Now, it turns out that this whole debacle, what they were intending to do was they were going to distribute Bully Hunter manuals, which when they, you know, founded their Bully Hunter program, which evidently doesn't exist since they had to fake everything, people would be able to contact a Bully Hunter and become Bully Hunters and that sort of thing, and that this was going to become a thing with a capital T. But in practice, the way you obtained this manual was by buying Bully Hunter branded headphones and headsets from SteelSeries.
Yes.
For use with
Somebody
And this is a hideous, by the way.
was around during Gamergate and saw dollar signs.
No, it may be that there was somebody in marketing who had managed to get to enough level of influence that they pitched this or signed off on this and actually sincerely thought it was a good idea, and that everything in here was totally legit and totally reasonable. Because that's a lot of people in that industry are inclined that way. They don't really live in the real world. Most of these peripheral manufacturers, apart from Logitech, most of these peripheral manufacturers have very, very narrow margins. Famously, Razer has never turned a profit on a product ever. And heaven only knows how they keep getting people to invest, but they do. But yeah,
6 months until it breaks.
If you're lucky.
I guess that's how they manage to keep their bottom line, is by people having to buy replacements. But or maybe if the warranty is
plugging.
Maybe if the warranty's still current, that's why they never make any money, because they keep having to give away freebies. But
it is a year-long warranty, and it's a 6-month lifespan on anything you get, and after you send it in, you get 3 more months. That's been my experience every single time.
But yeah, so yes, SteelSeries are up to their greasy elbows in this.
I wouldn't be surprised if actually there's a fair few people out there buying these things up out of pure comedic or ironic value.
Yeah, it may in fact sell a few but I think that they will probably try and remove them from existence as fast as possible, because the bad PR of it having it around is too great. But yeah, this entire thing seems to have been a social justice flavoured marketing scam, basically, to sell headphones. Like, nobody involved in this manifested any practical example of caring about, you know, quote unquote bullying, or, you know, or women, or any of the things that they purport to care about, so much as obtaining money and obtaining fame by exploiting all of the above. So yeah, basically this entire thing is a deplorable example of the worst of humanity. The worst instincts of exploitation.
The only way this could have been any better is if their little Bully Hunter thing was for realsies, and they found a girl who was harassing the girls online, and they sent their Bully Hunters in, and she owned the crap out of them.
Well, the deep irony to that is that there is plenty of Twitch footage that exists of the woman in charge of this whole Bully Hunter debacle calling people, you know, the F word that is the word for a bundle of sticks.
Yes. Among other things.
Yeah.
So.
And that's like her standard parlance for people she doesn't like online, and she's you know, going to deal with harassers and abusers online. That's her thing. So yeah, this whole shtick is basically an embarrassment to everybody involved.
Just watching that stream was just terrible. It was like they started off as some sort of staged interview thing with people nobody cares about, and then Watch Dogs apparently happened.
Or at least
as best I could describe it.
Or a staged example of what they think Watch Dogs is like. But,
yes.
But yeah,
Well, Watch Dogs as by Ubisoft, yes.
yeah. But yeah, the whole thing was quite the impressive debacle, and very much you could easily convince me that none of it was real, and that the whole thing was just a satire. It was staged as a satire of what, you know, corporate marketing idiocy looks like, and what modern feminism is like, because it was such a caricature. Like, the whole thing was cringy beyond belief.
It'll be much healthier for your mental state if you just choose to believe it was a guy that saw Gamergate and saw dollar signs in the marketing team than what actually you know for realsies probably happened.
By the aftermath, the woman in charge was furiously spamming pictures of like her dogs and stuff into the Bully Hunters hashtag, so that none of the incriminating stuff would show up on the recent timeline when people searched the hashtag. Although, considering the metrics methods used by Twitter, it wouldn't work. But she doesn't know about things like that. So,
oh no,
yeah, the whole thing was clearly just a disaster from every imaginable angle, and I can't wait to see who gets held responsible at SteelSeries for this. I hope somebody gets sacked. It'd be hilarious. Like, to perpetrate something this cynical, you don't belong in any kind of PR department, because it's commercial suicide.
Oh boy. I'm just looking at the SteelSeries Twitter at the moment, and oh boy.
Don't do that.
I haven't looked at the
No.
Like, are they mentioning it at all, or attempting to
The
do
only
damage
tweet
control, or...
This tweet's from a few days ago. This is before the whole thing exploded. Let me see.
Yeah.
No, they're not saying anything about it.
Well, they're probably trying to work out how they're going to spin it. It's not their fault.
They're
say,
currently
just
filling it up with esports.
Yeah, they will probably say, "Oh, well, somebody sold us this idea. It wasn't our doing," sort of thing. I don't know, but yeah, it was a big disaster, and I hope that they suffer for it, because they deserve to.
It was too.
Oh, here we are.
Oh no.
So they say, this is a quote from SteelSeries on their Twitter. "We decided to support this campaign because we believe that harassment of any kind sucks." That's true. But this was not stage managed by us as some sort of viral campaign. We didn't come up with the idea. No money was exchanged whatsoever. We provided headsets for charity and support. We did so because we believed in equal, friendly, and competitive virtual playing field for everyone. We still do. Be kind to each other.
Basically, they're saying that they're the victims in all of this.
I think so, yeah, because we're trying to do the right thing. We knew nothing about the rest of it.
Yeah, so they're basically saying that they 100% bought in without thinking to a bunch of social justice ideologues who sold them an idiotic idea, and they did not even for a moment think that maybe they should think twice about this. Like, all that shows is that at best they are deeply, deeply incompetent.
Incidentally, Bully Hunters, let's have a look at that.
My goodness me.
Both boys and girls that play Vidya just want to play Vidya. Just let us play our Vidya. Please, social justice warriors, stay in Cali. Stay in Cali. Stay in New York. Stay out of our Vidya. I happen to know girls that play games. They just want to play the Vidya too. Because they don't live in Cali or New York. It is only in those two areas and other major cities. If you can then that person doesn't. The people around you don't care. Please stop trying to preach this crap.
This Bully Hunters Twitter is still trying to play the whole thing straight. Sort of.
I don't know. Maybe they've received some sort of response which shows that there are people who have bought into it. I don't know.
I'm sure their friends and family and the people in their immediate social group have. I'm sure they're all gung ho and for them. That's how these things work.
Like, but before it even started, Before the stream even started, the woman arranging it was claiming that she was being sexually harassed because people opposed her ideals or whatever it is.
Apparently saying I disagree with your opinion is sexual harassment now.
And did you know women are sacred, dog? I'm gonna get in a racist tangent if this goes much further.
Let's
kill it
start
before
wrapping this up, shall we?
Before you have a chance to put us on the wrong side of somebody important.
Yeah, so anyway, Bully Hunters, massive joke. There's a few good YouTube videos you can go watch for a nice summary of it, as well as choice clips from this whole debacle.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna watch those.
Oh, I recommend you. There's a couple you watch. It is comedy gold.
My cringe threshold is pretty dang low.
I almost cringed myself inside out. It was so cringy.
It was approaching E3 levels of cringe, yes.
Ugh. No. Give me the poor,
Yeah.
awkward guy from the early days of No Man's Sky before I watch something like that. Not happening.
Yeah, it could be worse. You could be watching a Just Dance promo.
Those are pretty bad, yeah.
Yeah. Let's wrap this up, shall we?
Yes.
Yes. So, Fern will get back to fixing his computer. We will probably have some things to iron out next week because Fern will either have a new computer or be running on one that might have a timer on how long it can run. So, we might have to figure something out next week. But
Yeah, it'll probably be longer than a week for the parts to get here. I think some of them have to come from the States.
Oh, dear. So, yeah, closing comments go.
I need a new computer. It's dead.
I need
My
new pair of
computer is dead.
lungs. They're dead.
They are also dead.
I just want to play my Vidya. That's all.
But your 3DS is dead. Almost.
No, I fixed it. I brought it back to life. It got a new heart and liver, whatever the motherboard equivalent is in the human body.
It's a zombie.
It's pretty much a zombie.
Yes.
Held up long enough to make it through the main games and at least 2 runs of the post game. Although, to be fair, those only took like 3 hours if you skip all the text.
Yes.
So, it's all good. Okay, email topic of the week is, sure, the Bully Hunter thing. Why not? I'm probably not going to read that email if it comes, but you can write it.
Oh,
I don't like this whole topic. It just feels wrong. I know these people are delusional. I know people that are married to ideologies as hard as these people are delusional. But I really don't want to think about it.
Yeah. Like, getting rid of genuine bullying is definitely something I can get behind, but becoming what you're trying to destroy is not the way to go about it.
Well,
and
they didn't become,
lying about the whole thing.
They always were.
Well, yeah, that's true.
This whole thing.
That's true.
This whole thing was about vigilantism. It was about lionizing vigilantism because that's the way the culture is currently going. Like you've seen those Antifa people. They've got support from like supposedly real human beings.
Yeah.
The Dark Lord human being, maybe.
Like there's this thing that, you know, I don't know if they tell the modern generation this, but, you know, sticks and stones.
Oh no, yeah. I don't think they actually are allowed to tell that one anymore in schools.
Oh no, I haven't. I actually think I know somebody that was surprised when I said that to him once. That was under the age of 16. Yeah, they don't say that words can't hurt you anymore. They say words are harmful and can hurt you for realsies. You know. And you know.
And then
This is also why the vast majority of these people claiming my feminism and my girl harassment are under the age of 24, because all girls over the age of 24 don't care, because everybody, you know, shouts at each other in video games. It's a thing. Discrimination is not intended ever. It's just that person is somebody I don't like right now. I'm going to scream at them and use the first thing I can identify about them personally to make fun of them. That is how video games have worked. This is a thing when you use online multiplayer voice chat.
If you want to avoid it, don't play Counter-Strike. There's step one.
Then don't get on chat. That's how you do it. We don't
turn
use
the chat off.
Yeah, people are bad.
Yeah, I don't use pug chat, I should say. I'll stay on chat with people I know, but
which is how most people do nowadays, which solves the air quote harassment problem anyway.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the problem that is described doesn't actually exist in any meaningful capacity. I'm fairly confident it exists as a figment of their imagination. Like the truth is that there's no kind of serious harassment that takes place on video games 99.9999999% of the time. The only way that meaningful harassment can happen to you is if you are, dumb enough to leave such a massive internet footprint that people can track you down IRL.
In that case, get off Facebook.
Yeah, like you're digging your own grave if you use Facebook sincerely.
There is a reason the only social media the three of us use together collectively as one account is our Twitter, and we don't use our real names on it.
We don't really use Twitter either anymore, I suppose.
I mean, I mainly talk in replies to people. I don't. I almost never actually tweet something outright. I will occasionally retweet something, and I'll talk to replies and people that I want to talk to. Usually people like Serethus or Octail or whoever. I don't generally tweet things outright. Like the only thing that you can glean about the Twitter account is that it's run by a frothing papist. So,
well, yes.
Other than that, there's not really anything. Like, it barely even looks like a gamer account. It looks like a Catholic fanatic. So.
Anyway, we'll see you all next week. Sayonara, bye-bye.
I haven't disconnected it yet. I'm looking for the button to do so.